And the title of this session, are we ready for a new world order? Are we ready for a new world order?
Why would anyone pay $69 million for a JPEG and a hyperlink?
Artificial intelligence is going to create jobs.
People and AI help each other.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. By far one of my most important shows, and I don't care if it becomes repetitive saying that. I highly recommend you share this with people, especially Christians that you know, because this has everything to do with the mark and has everything to do with the ushering in of the Antichrist. Our world leaders, as we know, get together and they meet at all these secret meetings, Bohemian Grove, Bilderberg. Obviously, we know that they meet openly now, places like the World Economic Forum. And recently, right now, as we speak, they are together and they are speaking. Of course they are. To the public, because they're letting everyone know at the World Government Summit that the New World Order is here. And one of the things that is so troubling about this is that we are so close to this stuff going down, and I want to do so much more other than this, but I don't know how much more I can do. But let's get into this now, because you need to know about this. This ties into all of the topics that I discuss in this channel, that other channels might discuss, that you all know about. All together here discussing the things that we know are coming. Food crisis, energy crisis, supply chain crisis. They have prepped people with the 1.9 with these crises as far as the supply chain and things like that. We now see inflation. It is going to get bad. It is not going to get bad where you're getting priced out of the market. It's going to get bad because the grid is going to be down and there's going to be no way to get this stuff. Klaus Schwab, speaking at this event, has no problem, because I can't imagine the amount of security this guy has surrounding him. And of course, we know he has Lucifer probably right next to him in his ear. He openly tells everybody that we do know the global energy systems, the food systems, and the supply chains are going to be deeply affected. And this, of course, is in reference to the 1.9er, and now the stuff we're seeing, as he says, with quote-unquote world leaders in conflict. And of course, he brings in his World Economic Forum garbage to try and tie in technology with this stuff, because remember, all of this does tie together. And some people are like, how can they? I've said it a million times, they don't seem to understand. Shutting off the grid is not permanent. When the grid comes back on, people are going to be clamoring for their technology. Their technology is going to be fried. There's not going to be phones, and there's not going to be computers anymore, because everything's going to be in your body. If they just came out and said, hey, everything's in you now, people wouldn't take it. They'd be like, I'm good with my phone, or I'm good with this. They're not going to have another alternative. And of course, as we know, they won't be able to buy and sell without taking this. And I will tie that in and show you later in the video. So make sure you stick around. Let's start with Schwab and what he says here at the summit.
With all the current issues on our agenda, we tend to forget that we are in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution, which accelerates global change in much more comprehensive and faster ways than the previous three revolutions. The objective is to quickly recognize the potential of new technologies, as well as develop the necessary ethical and political frameworks around those new technologies to ensure that those technologies are human-centered and society-oriented. The world has to overcome not only the damage done to our economies and our societies by COVID-19, it also has to confront the repercussions of a dangerous clash between major global powers. History is truly at a turning point. We do not yet know the full extent and the systemic and structural changes which will happen. However, we do know that global energy systems, food systems, and supply chains will be deeply affected. In times of crisis, the role of governments is more important and more relevant than ever. What is also needed is a summit like this one to go beyond crisis management and to look into constructive ways we can build our common future. Our futures are intrinsically connected to one another, as the profound challenges to mankind, such as climate change, are globally interconnected and require collaborative responses. In conclusion, and despite all the challenges, we have to uphold our responsibility, which we have towards the next generation, and which we can only fulfill through collaboration on a national and on a global level. I wish you an impactful and successful meeting. We do know that global energy systems, food systems, and supply chains will be deeply affected.
It's frightening to think that this is actually going on, but it is, and that's why I want you guys to be prepared. I know financially, everybody's in a different situation, but I tell you this, there might be stuff around your house you look at and you go, what's the point of this? Oh, I collect toys, I collect figurines, I collect dolls. Sell them. Get as much money as you can and stock up on food. Get solar generator, if you can get one. Get a Faraday bag so that you can have your stuff protected when this goes down. Because if you're not ready for this, Big Brother is going to swoop in and he's going to be the last resort for you to eat. And some of you out there go, good, I'll die, I'll lay here, I don't care what's going to happen to me, I'm ready for our king to return. Understandable. I cannot wait for him to return. I cannot wait to see these people get launched into the pit if I'm lucky enough to watch. I hope that I'm lucky enough to. And watch these people burn for eternity for what they've done to mankind. But I'll tell you this, when you're sitting there and you're actually starving, because a lot of people listening to this have never been in a situation like that, me included, I guarantee you that you will regret not getting things and preparing yourself, because dying of hunger and starvation and dehydration is probably the worst way you could possibly go. It's long, it's agonizing, mentally you will break and crack, and you do not want to have to depend on Big Brother because they want to swoop in and say, look, we've got crackers, we've got Soylent Green, come to us. And people go, okay, they're going to feed us. And they'll run like in moms. You know, this will be after, of course, people loot and rob stores, which will come. We know the predictive program's been there for decades. They'll say, look, we have it. Come to the downtown. Everybody gets a small portion. Yay, everybody gets to eat, but you're under our control now. And of course, that'll tie in with the taking of the mark. So please be prepared for that. Number two with this, obviously, I'm talking about the energy crisis there and the food crisis. Those are two things that you must be aware of. Number three, obviously, this is a big thing I've talked about for years. It's digital currency. I want you to listen to this woman flat out tell you that it's time for change, that it's time for a new order of currency, that it's time to get rid of cash. It's time to go cashless. It's time for control. It's frightening what comes out of this demon's mouth. But this is what's planned for us. And remember, this ties in with the mark, not being able to buy or sell. Listen to this.
And so I think we have to go deeper, and it's not about the U.S. versus China. It's about what underpins a world order is always the financial system. I was very privileged. My father was an advisor to Nixon when they came off the gold standard in '71, and so I was brought up with a kind of inside view of how very important the financial structure is to absolutely everything else. And what we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new one, the new accounting, is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. In my opinion, we're going to need a digital constitution of human rights if we're going to have digital money. But also, this new money will be sovereign in nature. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private, but what I see are superpowers introducing digital currency. The Chinese were the first. The US is on the brink, I think, of moving in the same direction. The Europeans have committed to that as well. And the question is, will that new system of digital money and digital accounting accommodate the competing needs of the citizens of all these locations so that every human being has a chance to have a better life? Because that's the only measure of whether a world order really serves.
So you might be listening to that and not understand. So let me piece this together for you. A lot of people think of digital currency, they think of crypto. Like she said, it's not that. It is not cryptocurrency. It's going to be a form of it. But it has to do with blockchain. It has to do with something being inside of your body. Your currency is going to be in you. You might say that sounds crazy. I'm going to show you a clip right now. I covered it when it happened, and I knew that I was going to be using this clip for a long time, as long as I have, I'm able to continue to breathe and put this information out there. When Colbert brought up that Vice article about mice, about how they were doing tests on mice so that they could experiment with blockchain. And, people in the crowd are cracking up. Literally, it says on the screen, the plan to put Bitcoin in mouse DNA with a genetically engineered virus. Sound familiar? Probably not. Unless, come on. Editing the mouse's genetic code to carry the private key that controls the Bitcoins. This right here is the mark. To me, in my opinion. It ain't Sunday law, in my opinion. People haven't already taken the mark, but they're close to taking it. What they've taken is something that is bad. But this right here, do you understand what that means about the genetic code? Listen.
News. There's a plan to put Bitcoin in mouse DNA with a genetically engineered virus. Here's the plan. You may know a Bitcoin wallet can only be accessed using its private key. They will buy some Bitcoin, then tie the mouse's value to that Bitcoin by editing the mouse's genetic code to carry the private key that controls the Bitcoin. This manipulation will result in genetically engineering the world's first douche mouse.
The reason that he did that, and he said that, this article had no views, it had no play, it had no legs, it had no traction. They brought attention to this for a reason. Of course, you saw at the end, they deflected, right? This is sigil magic. This is universal law. They're letting you know that this is exactly what the plan is. And they're experimenting on mice, just like they did with all these other things. And then they experiment on humans, like we're seeing right now. That is what is coming now, soon. But the first thing that will come is a grid shutdown. You cannot reset without doing it. Think for yourselves about what reset means to you. Just think of Nintendo. You're playing a game, or whatever kids play now. Xbox, PS5, PS4. You're in the middle of a game, your friend wants to troll you, he comes up and he presses the power button. What happens? The game resets. You have to restart for a great reset by shutting off the grid and starting over. People's technology will be wiped out with an EMP attack. That means when the power comes back on, they still will not work. If you have a Faraday bag, you put it in there, it should still work. But what's the point? What are you going to do with a phone when you can't call anybody because there's nobody on the other end to pick it up? Maybe you have your laptop. You're going to have a router and things in there. Who knows what they'll do with the internet in general. But as far as when the grid comes back on, you're going to need devices. You're going to need those things. So if you're already going to Big Brother during this entire thing, which will happen, because like I said, people will only have a week's worth of food at best. Regular people. Not me and you, regular people. A week at best, you figure, right? Go through their soup. Well, how many cans of soup do they need a day? A few, right? 2, maybe, if they're, So say somebody has a cabinet of soup, maybe they get a month. You shut the grid down for 2 years, not only are you depopulating and killing people off, you're making people turn on one another, become violent with each other to get food. People will only be able to go within their walking distance with the grid shut down because there ain't going to be gas stations. Whatever gas you got, that's all you got. Wherever you're going, you better be ready to stay there. So it doesn't make that much sense to go unless you're going to see your mom, your dad, your wife, your girlfriend. Be ready to bunker down together. I'm not trying to make people panic. I'm trying to make you aware. You could look at this and you could roll your eyes and say, Call, I don't agree with you. You're crazy. That's fine. I'm not doing this for clicks or views. My videos get the same amount of views every time I put them up. I'm not going to go viral. I'm not going to trend. We all know that. Likely going to get a strike. We all know that too. I'm telling you this so you're aware. Because if I didn't make you aware, I would feel somewhat of a responsibility, or I'd feel somewhat responsible for at least not talking about these things and making you aware. And I know that people are sick and tired of hearing fear, and I know Christians comment on the channel and they're like, the great news is the coming of the king. I know that it's the great news. I'm not mocking and saying it's not. But I'm saying when push comes to shove and you're laying on your front porch starving, you might be wishing for death and hoping for it. But there are other people out there, who knows? Does God, I don't know where in the Bible it says, hey, when all this stuff goes down, just lay down and bend over, or, let them do whatever they want to you and come to me. Maybe that's how other people feel. I feel like I still have a job to do here. Because after this occurs, the world is still going to be going on. And there's still going to be people who need to learn and realize what's happening and find Christ. So to me, that's how I feel. And I feel like I need to get through this thing. Not because I want to. If you listen to me months and months ago, you hear the sound of my voice, you probably are like, man, he sounds defeated. I'm feeling re-energized because I feel like I have a purpose with this and I have to do something. And no, it's not something where I'm going to rise up or do something like that. Surviving what is going to come is the big thing. Because you know how many Christians are going to walk into the mark and not know it? Think about how beat down people are from the 1-9er. Beaten beyond belief, right? Some people have psychosis. Some people are just mentally, physically, everything worn out from it. That's just the beginning of this. This ain't over. That was step 1. Act 1, right? Like a movie. Act 2 hasn't even started. Well, it has actually in Russia. It has started. It hasn't hit its climax. And if you think that was bad, the first phase, no. You were allowed to be home. You still allowed to eat. It was annoying, the restrictions and the control, of course. People losing their jobs, absolutely ridiculous over certain things and restrictions and mandates. But it's only going to get worse. So think about beaten down people when this occurs. Starving. Like I said the other day, like shipwrecked men turning to seawater. Right? You can't drink seawater. People will turn to seawater. They'll turn to bacterial water. They'll be that thirsty. And when Big Brother swoops in after being silent for weeks and weeks and weeks, and they come in with a tank or something and they say, hey, down at your local armory, we got food, we got water. People will think of it as the greatest thing that's ever happened. Because we live in a world where people take for granted food, water, housing, warmth. Everyone does. It's a horrible thing to think about. I always find myself drawn to the old times, like, Little House on the Prairie type days, old Wild West type, reality. And I wished I grew up then, but I didn't. I grew up in this mess. And like a lot of these lost people, I was a part of the Matrix too at one point. Was I as lost as they were? No. Did I know something was wrong? Yeah. Did I have Christ? Yeah. But watching these people is going to be the hardest thing possible because you're going to have friends, family members who are going to take the mark. And they're not going to believe you that it's the mark. Once it's inside you, it's going to be total control. Once your DNA is manipulated and altered, and currency can now travel and live in you, just like this article on a joke Stephen Colbert television spot says. That's exactly what is to come. Of course, in my opinion. I am not a prophet. I've never claimed to be, never have. I'm telling you from all the information that I have and years of watching that this is what I believe. And I believe that a famine is coming, created by them. I believe darkness is coming. And that has to do with a grid shut off. You heard Schwab out of his own mouth. Everything that this guy has been saying is what they've been doing. It hasn't been happening by coincidence because they're doing it. Your government is doing it to you. They desperately want a new world order. They desperately want the Tower of Babel reborn, and they desperately want to roll in the Antichrist. He's here somewhere. Maybe we already know who he is. Maybe we don't. The people will worship this beast system after they suffer through what is going to come. We live in the most spoiled time in the history of human life, beyond spoiled. And even if you're somebody out there who has hard times, and you've struggled, and you struggle to have food, and you've been homeless from time to time, hard times are coming for all of us, me included. Because mentally, you got to be strong and prepared for what they're going to do. And when it ends, you got to be mentally strong and prepared. If you survive it and God leaves you here and wants us here to do something about it, we need to constantly, continually preach the word, guide people towards Christ. Because when the mark is here, they will be deceived into taking it. And it'll be something as simple as wanting food and water and having this technology inside of them that completely controls their lives. It is a frightening thing to think about. But God put us here right now for a reason. He didn't put us here in the 1800s, although I'd like to have been alive then. Honestly, I don't know if I would have survived. I grew up in this era just like all of you did, right? Could any of us? There could be the biggest, homesteader out there and, anti-establishment guy out there. Would we have survived? I don't know. But I know we're here now and we're surviving right now. And when this comes, you got to be ready to survive it. I hope that people out there listening to my channel don't want to lay down to this and don't want to end up on the other side of it. I hope you don't. But if you do and you feel that that's what's best for you, then okay. But I'm going to be here fighting. It's not happening tomorrow. It's happening soon. And I wanted to let everybody out there know my take on it. I'm sure some of you have seen other people's videos. As of right now, I don't know if anyone has any videos on it because of when I'm recording it. But watching these clips, watching these monsters meet together and plan our demise and act as if it's just because of, this is what's going to happen because of what's happening with Putin. Schwab's puppet Putin. We're supposed to just believe that this is just randomly happening. No. Happening in this order so fast. And he talks about how fast we need to get to this technological age because I think that they have a deadline to do this. A deadline with the devil. And that's 2030. I thank everyone for being here. I greatly appreciate all of you. Do not fear, do not panic. I'm not trying to create that. I'm speaking from my heart as I always do in my videos. Sometimes I'm funny, or you think I am. I'm not trying to be, or sometimes I'm in a joking mood. This isn't a joking topic. It's a serious topic, but it's not one you should be afraid of. I want you to be ready as my fellow brothers and sisters out there. I'm not a leader of you. I'm not above you. We're all even. We're brothers and sisters. I want you all to be ready. Prepare mentally, prepare physically, prepare and be smart with what you have. Like I said, you have crap laying around that you can make a couple $100 off of, sell it. None of it's going to matter. You hear these people. What do you think? They're joking about a great reset? None of it's going to be worth a cent. Why do you think they love pushing all this collecting and all? It's all a waste of time, energy, and money. They don't want people stockpiling food. They want people to depend on them. Make sure you're ready. Love you guys. Thank you for being here. God bless all of you and your families.